Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the new and used car market, and we're going to be talking about how prices could potentially get worse in the near future and why. And so with all that being said, let's just get right into the video. So we've had quite a bit happen over the last month with the car industry, right? We had a bunch of reporting over the last month in terms of what car manufacturers were doing really well in the 2021 sales year and what car manufacturers didn't do so well. And, a lot of people talking about, the car industry moving forward, right? The changes that are happening and, when this crazy pricing is going to end. And recently with the Federal Reserve meeting, people thought that car prices might potentially start to come down because they're talking about increasing interest rates, right? And if the Federal Reserve increases interest rates, that means that auto loans are going to become more expensive. So then that should make it so that there is less demand for cars, right? Because people will be going and buying less cars. They'll be keeping their cars for longer because either they have a really low interest rate right now and they don't want to trade up to a higher interest rate, or they won't be able to afford cars at the current prices and then at the future interest rates as they increase over time. That's at least the thought, but that is not the reality that is happening. It seems like it's kind of the opposite is exactly what's happening. So some interest rates with certain lenders have actually already increased because they're kind of expecting the feds to increase the rates significantly. Some analysts are thinking that the feds might only raise the rate once or twice this year. Some are saying that they might raise it as many as 7 times this year. And so with so much uncertainty, lenders are kind of doing all sorts of things to try to stay ahead of the curve, right? And with that, right, it's causing a lot of uncertainty with buyers. And so you think that that might kind of stifle demand a little bit, but it hasn't done that. People are actually going and buying more now because they're like, okay, you know what? It looks like the interest rates are going to go up, so I better get something now while it's still available and while it's still available at a lower interest rate, right? And that's kind of become the buyer's mentality, not only with cars, but with things like houses as well. It's been pretty interesting. It's like everything was just kind of, high demand, and it was just kind of just, going through, right? And then all of a sudden, it seems like the demand has increased even more. Then on top of that, right, these supply chain issues have not been alleviated whatsoever. Some automakers have become creative and figured out some things to get around the supply chain issues. But pretty much every single automaker is reporting that they're having just as many issues as they were before, if not more. They're just able to kind of navigate them a little bit better, but those issues haven't been alleviated whatsoever. And so what that means is we're actually going to have serious issues with production this year, and it's probably going to be even worse than last year. Everyone was thinking that 2022 is going to be the year where we're finally going to have a massive increase in production with vehicles, and then that means that prices are going to come down because of that. But what it's looking like now is the supply chain issues are getting even worse, and so then the production is going to actually decrease this year, and so that means that vehicle sales overall are actually going to decrease, but that means that demand is going to be higher, so prices are going to increase. And then on top of that, right, we still have labor shortages as well that are affecting everything. And so you have like all these things coming in, and so the problem, I guess, that I've seen is that you just have these people going, oh, interest rates are going up, so everything's going to go down. And it's like, okay, well, that's just one part of the equation, right? If interest rates go up, but there's still an extremely small supply, right? There's still extremely high demand, and there's still labor shortages. All those things are still going to keep the prices high. And so the end result is prices are actually still holding tight with used cars and with new cars as well, and slightly increasing with new cars, actually. The used car demand seems to be the same as what it was before, but it seems like the amount that people are paying for these cars seems to have kind of flatlined. There was some talk that the prices were slightly decreasing with used cars, but it's not as much as what we were hoping, and it seems like that trend has kind of stopped, and the pricing has kind of started to balloon back up towards the end of this month. And so if you're wondering, as a buyer, what should you do in this situation? Here's what I have to say, and this is the advice I've given for literally over a year now at this point, is I recommend focusing on new overused right now. With the used car market, it is just astronomically high, right? Used cars have literally inflated by 40% in value since before the pandemic. And so if you buy a used car right now, you are paying the highest amount of money for that used car that you probably ever will have to pay for it until, inflation catches up, right? And then the values get back up. But, current like market value and everything, you're paying right at the peak at this point. New cars, however, right, those haven't inflated nearly as much. Most new cars have gone up by about 7 to 10% depending on the manufacturer. And so what that means for you is, yes, you are paying more than what you paid for in the past, but you're not paying nearly as much of a premium. And so what that means is, still, if you're car shopping right now, I recommend focus on new and try to find new at MSRP. There's a lot of dealers that are charging over MSRP because of the demand and everything. But if you can find a deal at MSRP, then just because of how crazy the used car market is and everything, you are basically buying that car under market value, and it doesn't matter what it is at this point. Pretty much everything can be sold for over MSRP because of just how little supply there is. And so anything from like literally a Toyota Camry all the way to something as specialized as like, the new Ford Bronco Raptor, all going over sticker. So if you get something at sticker, you're getting a great deal, and you're gonna be able to drive that car for free for the next little bit until the market calms down. And judging by how everything's going, I think that we're in it for at least another year, if not 2 more years, which sucks, right? It's sad to hear because I understand a lot of you are like really wanting to get into a new car, and there's all these new products that are coming out that are so cool, but the prices are just so crazy, and it's gotten to the point where it's blasted long enough with the supply chain issues and with the labor shortages and with everything else that's happening, right? That it's going to take a really long time to recover, right? And we're still not even into that point where we're recovering. We're still basically at the point where we're just trying to get by. And then as soon as we get past this point where we're just trying to get by and we get into the point where we're recovering, right? Then it's going to jump into, this thing where it's going to take some time, right? It's going to take time for manufacturers to build up dealer inventory again. That's not going to happen overnight. And so I imagine from a timeline perspective, right? I don't know how, like I said, I don't know how long the supply chain issues are going to last for, but my guess 1 to 2 years. And I think that for the first year to year and a half, right, I think that is going to be with just us trying to get by while these issues still persist. And I think the issues are slowly going to clear up over time. And I think we're going to have kind of like a breaking point a year from now, or about a year and a half from now, where we truly aren't having these issues that we're having today. And then it's going to be a matter of beefing up dealer inventories, and that will take probably a year to 6 months to a year, I think, to happen for manufacturers to really get things up and going to where dealers, and when I say beef up dealer inventory, I don't mean pre-pandemic levels where there's so many cars on the lot that everything's getting discounted and that there's just parking lots are full. I'm talking that dealers will have enough cars that they'll probably have every single model in stock and maybe a couple of options, and then maybe a year and a half, 2 years down the road, then we'll probably get past that point. So I'm talking like 3 years from now, it'll get to the point where dealers will have so much inventory that they'll have to be super competitive and have to discount cars. That's just my personal guess. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this update. If you're shopping for the first time, please subscribe, and I'll see all of you in that next video.